Diablo 3 is a strange creature for me. Since release I've been playing it non-stop, yet I've had a roller coaster range of feelings towards it. It's strange how I can one day praise it for being one of the most addicting and polished games in years, yet another despise it for the insane amount of glaring flaws it has. The biggest problem in Diablo 3 is the atrocious difficulty curve. Normal is insanely simple, allowing the average player to autopilot to the end of the game. Nightmare and Hell certainly get harder, but not much changes in the way of mechanics. Instead, stats are multiplied, requiring higher levels and gear instead of a shift in mechanics. I may be reasonably spoiled when it comes to difficulty. Dark Souls was probably one of my favorite console games in the last decade. It's a prime example of how to properly create a rewarding and difficult gameplay experience. When you reach Inferno difficulty in Diablo 3, you'll be disappointed to find out that instead of enjoyable mechanics changes, you're stuck with a consistent gear check. What this means is that you're either going to be grinding Act 1 of Inferno for loot, or you'll need to buy the absolute best equipment available on the auction house. As of this video, there's a barbarian with arguably the best gear in the world who's stuck on Act 3. Diablo's main drive to push further is the explosions of multicolored loot. As I mentioned before, Dark Souls does difficult and rewarding gameplay properly without relying on slot machine satisfaction. The game has a balanced difficulty curve and constantly throws new mechanics at your face the further in the game you get. Dying is a learning experience where you won't make the same mistake twice. In Diablo 3, Inferno attacks you with so many one-hit kills that it cheapens the experience. By Act 4 of Inferno, it isn't uncommon for an enemy to do more than 100,000 damage to you in a single hit. You're left with two options to tackle this difficulty. Either push through slowly dying and chipping away at every mob, while attempting to run through and pass by as much as possible, or grind for gear until your stats are high enough to surpass the challenge. Players found ways around this artificial difficulty by using spells such as Smokescreen and Diamond Skin, but Blizzard has since nerfed these skills into the ground, making the loot grind an absolute necessity. In Diablo 2, we were given the skills and methods to destroy anything in the game whenever we wanted. We didn't need to grind for hundreds of hours to be able to take a second hit. We thought of clever ways to surpass enemies and take down bosses. It was very rare to hear someone complain about how just farming for bosses for gear was boring. If anything, the thirst for that final boss kill was immense as you sat in base waiting for that sorceress to open a town portal. The most unfortunate result of these poor balancing decisions is that due to the core nature of the game, it isn't fixable at this point. Instead, true class balance begins now as major abilities are nerfed and underused abilities are buffed. Inferno, just like the hardest raids in World of Warcraft, will slowly be nerfed by Blizzard until it's doable by an acceptable statistical number of players. The difficulty isn't the only problem though. Itemization has become a standardized joke. Uniques from Diablo 2 like Plague Bearer are missing from Diablo 3. Instead, we've been given an incredibly shallow WoW-like stat system that even the most inept person would have trouble following. Diablo 3 isn't a bad game by any means, it's just a good example of tunnel vision gone wrong. I'm debating on whether or not to make another video discussing the other points like class builds, the painfully limiting DRM, and the atrocious monologue every antagonist seems to ooze, but what's the point? What's funny is how Unknown Worlds, a studio with roughly 10 employees, manages to talk to their fans more on a daily basis than a studio with nearly 5,000. Blizzard has become a massive corporation over the last 10 years, and it's very difficult to get your voice heard in a crowd of millions of players.